the Highwire Act. Why PM Carney is going to China. The visit no one saw coming is happening. Next week, Prime Minister Mark Carney is getting on a plane and flying to Beijing. Now, if you've been following Canadian politics for the last decade, you know that this isn't just a standard diplomatic trip. This is a seismic shift. For nearly 10 years, the relationship between Canada and China has been, well, let's call it frozen. We had arrested Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou. China detained the two Michaels and imposed trade bans on canola, and our CMP laid allegations of election interference. The vibe has been icy, to say the least. But suddenly, the ice is breaking. Mark Carney, Canada's economist and Prime Minister, is betting the farm on a new strategy. He's calling it a pivot to pragmatism. His critics, they're calling it a dangerous gamble. So, why now? Why is Canada risking the wrath of Washington to shake hands with Xi Jinping? And more importantly, what does this mean for your wallet and Canada's future? Today we are breaking down PM Carney's high-stakes visit to China. Let's dive in. The why, the American squeeze. To understand why Carney is going to Beijing, we actually have to look south to Washington. We are currently living through what economists are calling the Trump tariff tsunami. Since the U.S. ramped up its protectionist policies last year, Canada has been stuck between a rock and a hard place. The Americans, our best friends and biggest customers, are turning inward. They're putting up walls, taxing imports, and making it harder for Canadian businesses to sell their goods in the U.S. For decades, Canada's economic strategy was simple: sell it to the Americans. But that strategy is broken. Prime Minister Carney knows that if we keep putting all our eggs in the American basket, we're going to get crushed every time Washington changes its mood. So Carney is doing what any good investment banker would do. He's diversifying the portfolio. He's looking at the map and seeing China, the second largest economy on Earth, and saying, we can't afford to ignore them anymore. This isn't about friendship. It's about survival. Carney needs buyers for Canadian oil, Canadian crops, and Canadian tech that aren't subject to American whims. What is Carney selling? So, when the Prime Minister lands in Beijing on Tuesday, what is he actually going to talk about? We've analyzed the briefing notes, and it comes down to three big things. First, energy. This is the big one. Remember the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion? It's finally running at full capacity. For the first time in history, Canada can ship massive amounts of oil directly off the west coast to Asia, bypassing the U.S. entirely. Carney is going there to secure long-term contracts. He wants Chinese refineries running on Canadian heavy crude. It's a huge revenue opportunity for Canada, and it gives us leverage. Second, food. China has a population of 1.4 billion people, and they need to eat. Canadian farmers have been hurting ever since China slapped tariffs on our canola and pork. Carney's goal is simple: get those tariffs lifted and get Canadian produce back on Chinese dinner tables. Third, the guardrails. This is where it gets tricky. Carney isn't going in blind. He has talked a lot about guardrails. He's basically saying to China, we will trade oil and wheat with you, but we are not giving you access to our data, our AI, or our critical security infrastructure. Think of it like a house party. You're inviting the neighbors into the living room, but you're locking the door to the bedroom and the home office. The question is, will China accept those terms? The risk, the Washington problem. Here is the problem. Politics is like a Rubik's Cube. Turn one side, and you scramble the other. By fixing our relationship with China, Carney risks breaking our relationship with the United States. Washington views China as its #1 rival. If they see Canada, a nice, polite northern neighbor, suddenly making big deals with Beijing, they might not take it well. There is a very real fear that the U.S. could retaliate. They could say, fine, if you want to be China's partner, don't expect special treatment at the U.S. border. This is the tightrope Carney is walking. He has to convince the U.S. that this is just business, nothing personal, while convincing China that Canada is a reliable partner, despite all the bad blood of the last few years. And let's not forget the domestic audience. Us. Many Canadians are uncomfortable with this. We remember the two Michaels. We worry about human rights and national security. Carney has to come home with a deal that brings in money without looking like he sold out our values. What will happen? So, what should we expect from next week? Don't expect a love fest. You won't see Carney and President Xi hugging it out. This will be a business trip, cold, hard, and transactional. Best case scenario: Carney secures a lift on those agricultural tariffs and signs a few energy deals. He effectively buys Canada some economic insurance against the U.S. trade war. Worst case, he comes home empty-handed, looking weak to the Chinese and traitorous to the Americans. But here is the fascinating part. Carney is the first Western leader in years to try this triangulation strategy, playing the two superpowers against each other to benefit his own country. If he pulls it off, he rewrites the playbook for middle powers like Canada. He is betting that in 2026, Canada can be an independent player, not just America's sidekick. We will be covering the visit day by day as it happens, analyzing every handshake and every press release. But I want to know what you think. Is this a brilliant move to save the economy, or is Carney playing with fire? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And subscribe so you don't miss our debrief when the Prime Minister lands back in Ottawa. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned.